The Call of Duty franchise is no stranger to controversy, and as we inch ever closer to the release of Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the series is back in the firing line for some very questionable content exclusivity decisions. And the backlash has been enormous. There are complaints, pre-orders are being cancelled, and this time, even members of the development team are apologizing for decisions made above their pay grade. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Industry Report, the series where we shine a spotlight on the most interesting stories of the week. As always, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that bell to let YouTube know that you're enjoying our videos, and if you'd like to chat more, you can check out our Discord down in the description. And with that, let's jump in. So, as with everything ugly in today's gaming industry, this has exclusivity running through it, and it's actually a bit more complex than normal, so we've got to first establish some proper context. Now, the Call of Duty franchise has had a number of different exclusivity arrangements throughout its storied history. The series really is a true blockbuster, and it's a phenomenal money spinner across all platforms, so it's no real surprise that in the past, Microsoft and Sony have competed for an advantage. Because of this, exclusivity has been part of the Call of Duty franchise since 2009's Modern Warfare 2. Now, back in those days, the Xbox 360 was dominant, so we saw an agreement to release all new Modern Warfare 2 DLC on the 360 first, 30 days before it released on PS3 and PC. Now, this deal with Microsoft lasted through 2014's release of Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, but of course we know that things changed with the console wars. As the new generation came, Microsoft's position began to wane, and Activision announced exclusive partnership with the new king of console land, Sony. Now, this deal began in 2015 with the release of Call of Duty Black Ops 3, and it involved not only all new content releasing first on the PS4, but also Call of Duty eSports events being hosted on that platform as well. So, you're a Call of Duty pro player, you like a 360 controller, or maybe PC? Yeah, tough luck. Now, the Activision-Sony deal has been in play for 4 years, although it has seen some alterations in terms over the years. For the 2018 release of Call of Duty Black Ops 4, the deal was changed to bring all new DLC content to the PS4 only 7 days early, though PlayStation did indeed remain as the presenting partner of the Call of Duty League for the duration of the deal. Now, what's really different is that this year's release of Call of Duty Modern Warfare is entirely new ground. It is the first time in the series' history where there's going to be crossplay being available between the different platforms. Now, this decision, while welcomed by fans of the game, definitely posed a problem for Activision. The exclusivity deals of the past worked just fine when each version of the game existed in isolation on its respective platform, but with crossplay being on the table, Activision couldn't very well have content arriving on one platform but not on the other. Now, the difficulty of this situation was further exacerbated by the fact that the exclusivity deal with Sony was still in play, and that regardless they would have obligations to be met, even though they were doing crossplay. So, what did Activision do? Well, they did what they seem to do best. They found a workaround. They found a loophole. And believe me, this is absolutely insane. This week it was announced via the Sony State of Play presentation that one of the multiplayer modes for Modern Warfare would be coming to the PS4 version of the game first, as a part of a timed exclusivity deal. Now, the game is scheduled for full release on the PS4, Xbox One, and PC on October 25th, but the new survival mode will be arriving on October 1st for the PS4 players. Now, this survival mode is just a part of the larger Spec Ops mode, and survival is going to be exclusive to PS4 for an entire year before it hits other platforms. Yes, a year, by which time, of course, the next Call of Duty will be out. Now, something that we're still actually waiting and hearing here is the full reveal of the Spec Ops mode that houses survival, and that is scheduled for October 6th. Now, Activision's plan here seems to have been to announce the survival mode exclusivity at the height of the beta hype, and then weather the resulting backlash by releasing the smaller mode to the PS4 players, and then to reignite the hype a week or so later with the full reveal of the larger Spec Ops mode. Now, this whole move screams workaround on Activision's part, a method whereby they can satisfy all of their various obligations without compromising themselves. But of course, people are annoyed, and the anger is justified here because, well, the exclusivity of the survival mode seems very much like a broken promise for Activision. In a blog post before the release of the Modern Warfare beta, Activision confirmed that post-launch pre-launch gameplay content, including new multiplayer maps, new multiplayer modes, special ops missions, and more, will release simultaneously across all platforms as a part of their goal to ensure that content would be released in a way that enables all players to continue to seamlessly play together, in line with crossplay. Now, this statement, combined with the time frame for this exclusivity deal, that seriously annoyed many players, and I think rightly so. It seems like a very cynical attempt by Activision to circumvent their own promises while simultaneously fulfilling their exclusivity arrangements with Sony. Why? Well, you see, the Activision blog statement relates strictly to post-launch content, but the PS4 survival mode releases before the full game does, which allows for the 1-year exclusivity to expire before the formal first anniversary of the game, and technically it's pre-release content, not post-release content. Insane. This was very underhanded in how they did it, and it came relatively without fanfare at the end of a single-player story trailer during the State of Play presentation. It's almost like neither Activision nor Sony are particularly proud of the arrangement that they've got here, and we're trying to slip this sort of bit of news through without us really noticing. Then again, it may be too bold to claim that either entity can feel shame at this stage. Now, it's important to note that Activision technically has not lied here, but it definitely feels like lying. It's like lying in spirit, but of course that's not going to help, make people feel better about it. Now, sure, Activision did promise that post-launch content would come to all platforms at the same time, and yes, the exclusive PS4 survival mode is pre-launch content, but still, Activision are exploiting a technicality in order to wriggle out of a promise that many people just think just think is anti-consumer, because this exclusivity stuff basically is. It's just an incredibly grating decision by Activision, and one that has soured a lot of the positive feeling that this game has had because of its successful alpha and beta. I mean, I've actually really loved playing both of those, as well as its dedication to releasing free DLC, rather than opting for a more typical paid season pass. Now, many commenters have signaled their intent to cancel pre-orders in protest of this, and I understand that. I do question the effectiveness of a boycott, given how well it worked for, well, Modern Warfare 2, but more recently, Borderlands 3. Now, another angle of criticism here is Call of Duty Zombies. This mode is basically the closest to a zombie-like experience in Modern Warfare, and it's a PS4 exclusive, so the Zombies community is not at all happy. Now, this decision has no doubt created a large amount of fallout, but what's unusual about the survival mode situation is that the game's development team have also chimed in. Now, the main example here is from Infinity Ward's narrative director, Taylor Kurosaki, who responded to some complaints on Twitter stating that the mode's exclusivity was a result of decisions that are above all our pay grades. Any criticism leveled at the developers, I think, is a bit unfair and misdirected, because it certainly was not their decision, and seemingly the development team is against this decision. Indeed, Kurosaki writes that Infinity Ward was simply trying to create the best possible player experience, and that decision was made for them. Kurosaki has endeavored to reassure some fans that the survival mode is 1% of their game, and that the other 99% is simultaneous, like day and date across all platforms. He said he'd rather have everyone playing 99% of the content at the same time, rather than 100% of the content at some time later. Now, it really is interesting, like, that Kurosaki is going out of his way to assure Xbox and PC players that they're not getting the raw deal. It's admirable that he's doing that, and that he basically has the stones to say something that I'm pretty sure the higher-ups at Activision wouldn't be happy about, but it still is wild. I think Kurosaki and Infinity Ward should have never been put in a position where they're, required to defend themselves against criticism for decisions that are made by the higher-ups at Activision, especially when they just seem to be there trying to make a game that people will enjoy. Not only that, but if survival mode really is just 1% of the game, as he says, then this really does speak volumes to the idea that Activision were scrambling to fulfill an obligation, really just at whatever way they could, and that they really were just doing a loophole, and this is the bit of the game they decided to carve off. So overall, no, the blame does not rest with Infinity Ward, the development team here. It rests with Activision and their dogged determination to just continue making decisions based on their own monetary benefit, rather than, the benefit of their players, which you would hope in the long run would be to their benefit. It's something the company has a long history of doing, and it never bodes well for fans, and even like the more recent moves with Call of Duty eSports, that's benefiting them at the expense of almost everyone else. Without going into too much detail, we're going to do a deep dive into this later. The new Call of Duty League season is going to be city-based, and that means that all of the involved organizations will have to align themselves with real-world cities through the purchase of a very expensive and I think absolutely overpriced franchise spot. Now, this decision has been damaging to the state of, well, Call of Duty esports scene, the actual one that people play, with many fan-favorite teams being forced to dissolve or just not partake because the franchising doesn't make sense for them. This is a move that has drawn a lot of criticism from many different corners of the esports community, and it just appears to be yet another money-motivated decision that's completely hubristic. Activision seemingly stand to gain a great deal by emulating American franchise sports, but doing that with Call of Duty seems to be, at least from a player and actual competitor perspective, be massively backfiring on them. And again, it does remind one of their Activision's Overwatch League, which is very overhyped and fraught with issues. Again, something we'll do a deep dive into later. Overall, though, they've made that decision for money, and it absolutely has diluted the quality of the league play. It's an incredibly short-sighted, money-motivated move, and fans are really getting fed up of Activision doing this. And throughout this, any Activision comments on the exclusivity fiasco, they're, well, conspicuous in their absence, but it may be the case that Activision are perfectly happy to hide behind Infinity Ward and let Kurosaki and his team take all of the flack. Kurosaki definitely does seem to have endeared himself to a number of people over on Twitter, though, for his and his team's dedication to being transparent with the player base in the light of this decision, and just saying that, yeah, it was not us, and basically just telling players what's up, and in a way, shifting the blame onto Activision. So I think rounding this up, as much as we'd like to think that Activision literally lied, they technically haven't lied, but if technically is the only way they haven't lied, then it's not really a good look, is it? I mean, they lied in spirit, pretty much. Now, all that said, it certainly will be interesting to track the future of Call of Duty Modern Warfare. It certainly has garnered a lot of positive sentiment because of its playtests, which, I think the playtests have been absolutely fantastic, and there are some good things, like them saying there will be no season pass and none of that paid DLC. And as much as I might sit and think that's a good thing, it also does make me wonder, well, based on what they did with Black Ops 4 with the loot boxes containing guns, will they just make this game even worse for its monetization, such that really, yeah, you're not getting, there's no season pass, but if you actually want to unlock new guns post-launch, you've got to pull that loot crate lever. If they do that, it'll be a massive problem. But anyway, there you go. That is the latest update on Call of Duty. Stay tuned to the channel for a deep dive into just Activision's mangling of esports. And with that, I will see you next time.